Hello and welcome. My name is Aaliyah. Today we're going to be talking about shark myths that I thought were absolute facts before I became a shark scientist. So, kicking it off strong with myth number one, that all sharks are apex predators. That is not true at all. Actually, let me check my source. According to Reader's Digest Sharks edition from back in the day, yes, here we have it. It says that there are nearly 500 species of sharks, and they are extremely diverse in shape and biology. More than 80% of these are harmless and smaller than humans. In fact, the average shark is between 3 to 4.5 feet, which is like 90 to 130 centimeters. And they feed on small fishes, crustaceans, and other invertebrates. Very much not a man-eater. So there you have it. That is one myth busted. Also, if you think about it, has anybody ever seen a pajama shark or an epaulet shark, for example? They look like little worms. And to me, that does not look like an apex predator at all whatsoever. The actual term that we use for these majority of sharks is a mesopredator, which is very interesting, right? Because it's not apex, it's also not the bottom of the food chain, it's still a predator of some type because it's feeding on other organisms, but it's in the middle, it's a mesopredator. So those are a lot of our derpier sharks, and apparently 80% of the shark species that exist in the world. So not all sharks are apex predators. Myth one busted. Myth number two was sharks need to keep swimming in order to breathe. That is not true for all species. So we have two different pools here, pun intended. We have obligate ram ventilators, which do in fact need to continue swimming in order to breathe. So those would be like great whites, hammerheads, or tiger sharks, for example. Those are just the first few that came to mind. Those guys actually do need to keep swimming because they are obligate, so they are required to ram, ramming their face into the water in order to ventilate. And that's how we get obligate ram ventilators. Not super interesting with the name, I know, but yeah, that's technically what they're called. So they actually do need to continue swimming to pump water over their gills so that they can extract oxygen and breathe. But not all sharks need to do that. We have the other side of the spectrum, which we have as buccal pumpers, which buccal referring to mouth and pumping referring to this kind of motion. We have that occur in a lot of shark species like nurse sharks or bamboo or epaulet sharks, for example, where they don't need to swim in order to keep breathing and pushing water over their gills. Instead, they can pump their mouths while sitting down on the sea floor and actually pump water through their mouths and over their gills. So if you've ever been to an aquarium and you've seen a group of nurse sharks all kind of sitting on the ground in like a one big cuddle puddle. I mean, I used to go to the aquarium and be very concerned for the health of those sharks before I knew anything about it, because I was like, are they breathing? And the answer is yes, they are buccal pumping. So now you know you have obligate ram ventilators like great whites and hammerheads, and then we have our less active buccal pumpers, which can sit on the floor and just chill out while also breathing, like nurse sharks and epaulet sharks, for example. So, myth number two, busted. Not all sharks need to be swimming in order to breathe. What is my third one? Okay, sharks can smell a single drop of blood in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. Yeah, there's definitely validity to that. Sharks actually are able to smell, they have an insanely strong, keen sense of smell, and they are able to detect a teeny little bit of blood in a massive body of water. And that's because they're evolutionarily superior and they're amazing. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything for us as humans. Just because they can smell blood doesn't mean that they have any interest whatsoever in human blood. If you really think about it, everything in nature is this perfect energy balance. Animals are looking for food that's going to replenish the energy lost by pursuing that food source. Right? So with humans, we're just not on the menu for sharks. We are not worth it. No matter what kind of body type you are, humans just are not energetically rewarding enough as a prey item for sharks to be interested in relying on us as a primary food source. We're just not fatty enough. Humans are not on the menu, but that fact is actually a pretty cool one, talking about the olfactory abilities of sharks. Right? So yeah, let's do a little recap of all of the myths that we busted today. So let's go over the myths that we have busted today. Number one, not all sharks are apex predators. In fact, 80% of sharks in the world are significantly smaller than humans and harmless to humans. Also, the average shark size out of all of the 500 plus species that we know exist in the world right now are anywhere from 3 to 4.5 feet in length. So not the most concerning. So that is myth busted number one. Number two, our myth was, what was it? That sharks need to keep swimming in order to breathe. And that's not true for all sharks. We have our obligate ram ventilators, and then we have our buccal pumpers. And then our last one was that sharks can smell a single drop of blood in an Olympic swimming pool. Yes, this may be true, which just speaks to the absolutely epic evolutionary abilities of these sharks, but it doesn't equate to them having any interest whatsoever. It's as if, somebody baked a pizza down the block for me. I'm not gonna go to my neighbor's house and go try and get their pizza. I'm just gonna be like, cool, someone's made pizza, So that's that. I hope you enjoyed this. Hopefully I'm gonna get better at this as time goes on, because this is my first 2-camera video. But yeah, follow along and I will try and do these weekly. So catch you in the next one. Bye.